Hello, welcome to this week's video. And this week we will be talking about how to make modular buildings from scratch. Now, what is a modular building? These are modular buildings. What is similar between these? The door on the bottom, the middle sections here, and the roof. Now, how do you make these? Well, first of all, you need to design them. And you do that in costumes. So I have 3 different kinds of doors. I have 4 different middle sections. One with 2 windows, one with a window on the left, one on the right, and no windows at all. And then I have 3 roofs. A flat roof, a roof that is shifting, I guess, to the right, and a roof that does exactly the opposite. So, what does a normal building look like when it's actually on its own? Well, let's get that to work. In order to do that, we are going to just remove this until to only do this one time. That is a single modular building. So are all these. Now what do you think this building is made of? The door, the windows, and the blank space, of course, and the roof. These are 3 sections that are each stamped down. And stamp is part of the pen add-on. Little button right here. And every time you press stamp, it will stamp whatever your costume is onto the background temporarily. Until you use the erase all, in which you will get rid of it. Now usually, or at least for the basic buildings, this would have been it. It would have just been a lot of these randomized. But I decided to make it a bit different. Okay. Strange. It doesn't matter. So, how does this work? When you start it, it refers to the first method here, which is called background creator. And by background creator, I mean it creates the buildings. Now, background creator, it clears it and then hides itself if it isn't hidden already. And then it's going to repeat for however many buildings you want. I set it for in between 10 and 20. And then each time it's going to reset the color effect to 0, which essentially just resets it to whatever the color, costume color is. And then I have it randomized to go in between. So let's make this a bit easier to notice. And tell it to show. This is the spray. So reset color, and I'm changing the effect. Then I tell it to go to a random position between negative 205 and 205, with the y being negative 83. That is essentially right on the border between the background and the foreground. And then each time, I'm going to reset these 3 variables. Now the first one is the height goal. This is going to be how many modules tall will the building be. In reality, it will be in between 3 and 10 for what I set. However, it can be higher or lower depending on how you set it. Now, the second one is the current building height. It always starts at 1 since you're always going to have the door. And third is reset. This allows it to place down the door every time a new building is finished. Then it creates a clone of itself. Now a clone runs the method create building. Create building makes it appear, and then checks to see if reset is true, or in this case equal to 1. If so, it will pick a random costume between 1 and 3. It'll pick one of these doors. And then set reset to 0. Then create a new clone, which will then go into create building again, up here. And that will change its Y position by 20. Originally, I wanted it to simply repeatedly go up by 1 until it sees the background, or until it's not touching itself. However, this doesn't work when stacking up a lot of them. So instead, I just hard-coded a number, and that number works right there. Now, this is going to keep happening until the goal is the same as the current height. When that happens, it's going to pick a costume between 8 and 10. 8 and 10 are the roofs. The flat, the slanted, and the opposite slant. And then it sets reset to 1. Now if not, and he is still trying to build up the rest of the modules, it's going to pick a costume between 4 and 7 at random. 4 being 2 window, 5 being the left window, 6 being right, and 7 being the blank. And that will replace the current height with the height plus 1. So if it's at 1 and this happens, it'll go to 2, etc., and it will create a clone of itself, which will keep doing this. Every time one of these sections finishes, it will create a stamp of itself and then delete itself, so that we don't cause any unexpected lag. That is all it is. Now, let's see it in action a few times. It creates a random assortment of buildings. Let's see if I can make this a bit slower. Right like that. Each time it creates a new building almost instantaneously. And they can stack right on top of each other, and you can't even move them around, because they are stamped in the background. Now how many can you do? Well, technically you can go up to infinity. However, Scratch doesn't like that very much because it's too much to handle. However, I will do, let's say, 100 buildings. And let's just make this the same thing, so we get 100. This is 100 buildings laid on top of one another. Pretty cool, right? Now what can you use this for? That is to be debated. Now one idea would be somewhat of a side scroller. You would have a building, and you'd have, let's say, a skateboarder dude. This skateboarder dude could land on the roof of a building and go flying onto another one. Say like this one. Once it goes down, it will hit like a flat zone, and then go up again. And there'd be like a timer, and whenever you reach, let's say, a certain point, there might be more buildings, or obstacles, or something else. You could also possibly do tricks and all sorts. However, there is an issue with that, and that is due to the way it works. So I have this set so that will randomize the color. So every time you run this, it will go ahead and make a new color. That does not work for that, and mainly because of the fact that every time it will touch this, it's not going to be the same color. The usual way of detecting if a sprite is on top of something that needs to stand on, it either will just set your Y to something, or it will check to see if you're touching the sprite and say, okay, if you're touching the sprite, then do not move your Y. If you're you're touching blue, decrease y by 1. If you're somehow inside the building, increase y by 1. The issue is that these are not sprites. The only thing that is a sprite here is the invisible sprite builder, which is right here. Which essentially means you're either going to need to figure out how to upload in Scratch the color palette for the building, or you're going to want to go ahead and find and use actual sprites. Now this isn't that hard, all you'd have to do is remove this. Simple. And now you have a bunch of clones, a bunch of sprites. And you can tell each of them to, per se, let's see, repeat until touching the edge, and then delete yourself. And then you'd have it, let's say, move one step to the left. So now you have these buildings that move to the left. There are issues, of course, they're going to delete immediately. You can tell it to, let's say, repeat 10 times left by 1 step. And that could help you fix that problem. Somewhat. You could always increase the number. There. So now they go in there slightly more, which will somewhat help. What else? Can you do this with other things? Of course, you can do this with people, even. If you're trying to make, let's say, a person taller, you could use a bunch of these blink sections. This could be like part of their arm starting section. And then you'd have like another section up here, which would be the same color, of course, with the arm going all the way through. And then at the top section, you'd have a head, and the head would be customized to be like, I have 2 eyes. I am wearing an eye patch, or I have spiky hair. Okay. Shouldn't have done that. That's my bad. But I just wanted to show that off. Let's go ahead and clean that up. So no, I don't think so. Actually I do. What can this be used for? Can this be used in any other game? Last night when I originally made this, I kind of made it. It was built after a different game I made, which I am going to show off. I know this is not how you spell it properly, but it's Citizen Stroke. You have a built-in scoreboard, you have land here, but essentially you'd have this person who would create other people, and there's this red that essentially is everything. It moves in from the sides, it comes out of the ground, it rains down upon you, and it's randomized color, and essentially anything red is random. While teal is somewhat good, and your goal is to survive for 3 minutes. There's also power-ups like this umbrella, which you can use to essentially avoid everything. And it lasts for 5 seconds. This was somewhat built off as I thought I could make a form of tower setup. However, it didn't go very well, as I couldn't get to work due to what I explained earlier. As the sprites don't exist, because once you create a building, they are not sprites anymore, they are simply part of the background. However, this is the basic idea, so you put in a number of people. So let's say 10 people, and you start. Now it's going to spawn in, well, currently it has 1 person, but it's going to go up until it hits a roof, or until it touches the blue background. and every time a red thing hits it, it will change into a new costume. Let's make this easier. This will take a bit longer because I put a delay if it's over 100. There we go. So it will spawn up to 100 or 99, and then it will just run this. So this is, let's say, like lava, and it goes up and all that. And you have rain, and every time the, let's say, red touches a sprite, the sprite will go ahead, stamp itself in the background, and die. This causes some unusual ways of running. However, it's somewhat interesting how it works. What else does this thing have? Well, a simple timer that checks to see how long has your people survived in this, and once it hits the max, it will stop. Well, once the score hits 0, this will stop. However, sometimes your people are extremely lucky and spawn on the side of a building or are stuck in here, in which case they live forever because they're in a mound of bodies. I know that may not be the most appropriate thing in the world, but that is how it works because I told the people to go ahead and move up until they are touching the background, which is very weird, but that's how this would work. Sorry, my throat's a little off. Anyway, that's one example of how you could use it. It utilizes the modular buildings. One other idea would be if you were to generate possibly a background for a scene in a game, you could use this, and you could tell them to move off screen, and then disappear, and then spawn new ones. Somewhat similar to Flappy Bird, because in Flappy Bird, you also have two sections. You have the bottom section here, which make it green, and it's just simply, don't do that, which is simply the section on the bottom. And then you have the part top, which is either just this or two top pieces, like this. And these all interconnect at certain points, which are fair enough to the player to fly through. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna end off here with a video of just these things done. Just run one more time so you can see what happens. The people will move up until they hit the roof, or frankly until they stop touching. Slowly, you have bodies. So, I hope you had a good time watching.